moods about returning.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, have a seat with me and have a seat with my guest, because tonight we have one of the original, the OG, the sole survivor of Downtrend, Josh Crum to my right. Josh has been around for a long time. Downtrend has been around for a long time. And if you have been living under a rock in these parts, well, then you probably wouldn't know this. But if you haven't been, the big news yesterday, was it, or the day before yesterday?
Well, it premiered yesterday on WXLR, but released today.
Man, they released a new single. It is Bad to the Bone. When I first hit it, the first thing that came to my mind was Rebel Meets Rebel. I love the video. I love the groove. Everything about this. It's getting local airplay. Listen, Josh Crum, we're buddies, so we're just going to talk. You know, this is
we're buddies, and we share everything in common.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, even make fun of
it. It's hilarious. But Josh, tell us a little bit about. First, let's talk about that single right now, man. While it's hot, strike while the iron's hot.
Man, we're excited about it. It's a track called Backroads, and essentially, you know, people have mentioned the return of Downtrend. It's not really as much a return. We're like Eric C. Collins. We never left. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But with COVID, we've been busy. We've not been out, you know, playing shows and such. And so when we rallied the troops, got together and started, you know, rehearsing for some shows and stuff upcoming, I told the guys, let's, you know, we got these riffs written. We're like, let's write a song and release just one, just to kind of show the world, hey, we're still here, you know. And I've wanted personally to write a punk song for about 5 years, just an up-tempo rocker. And I had this song laying around called The Burner. Musically, I call it The Burner. And anyone that writes music knows you'll kind of give like a working title and go from there. And the band learned, you know, we worked on it. And, you know, Jeremy Chaney comes in with the bass and JD on the drums, of course. And we, you know, everything kind of, when you get to group, it always changes a little.
Yeah.
And once that's kind of worked up, Mike Jackson throws his vocals on, and he becomes Backroads. And it was so funny. I'll tell a quick story. When you write a song, you love to see it pieced together with the band and form a puzzle. It's one of the most gratifying things to watch. And for me, if I have one that has this working title, I can't wait to hear what's going to actually be called, like the cool official title, you know. And Mike comes in, he's like, I got the lyrics done for that song. And I said, cool, man, what's it going to be called? Backroads of Appalachia. I was like, dude, that's a Tyler Childers song or something. Like, we can't do that. This sounds like a Tyler Childers song. And of course, everyone's cracking up. Mike's like, I don't care. You know, we'll call it whatever. So we just agreed on Backroads. So, yeah, we're really proud of it, though, man. And so far, so good. It's getting a lot of momentum.
And I'll tell you what, the coolest, you know, it was late last night, and it was like, I was laying in bed after I've settled down. I was like, all right, so it's on. I'm going to check it out. Lindsay's laying over here reading a Kindle, and all of a sudden, and she's like, would you turn that down? I said, hold on a minute. That's Josh and JD. Yeah. And I was like, what's this video, man? I'm trying to piece, because the video is so cool. If you're a native of Eastern Kentucky, that video, just the road, man, and I'm trying to think, is that Tulare Creek? Is that Mud Creek? I mean, because it looks, you're trying to figure out, but the video is so cool, man. It's live, you guys jamming, some cool visuals of the back roads. And like I said, man, the first thing, I don't know why, but that Rebel Meets Rebel, nothing to lose. I don't know if that, I don't know, man.
You're the first one to say that. We've gotten a ton of Motorhead vibe.
Everything
else is Motorhead. And all that is Jeremy Chaney's bass has a real overdriven tone in it. Motorhead was always kind of a punk band, punk rock. Overkill, old Judas Priest. I think that's Mike's vocals. But yeah, we appreciate that, man, and you know we're really proud of how it turned out. It's up tempo rocker, and like I said, you know I reached out to the X. You know, a lot of people don't know this. Let me educate people a little bit, real quick, on radio. So if you played music 20 years ago, and you had a song and you wanted to get it on the radio, you called your buddy who was a DJ, or you went to the station and talked to the DJ and let them hear your jam, and you crossed your fingers, or you paid them under the table $20, whatever, to play your song on the air. That's what people did. Well, as technology has progressed, if you'll notice, there's less than this DJs on the radio.
Yeah.
And everything is programmed now, and it has to be in the system. So it's gotten a lot harder to have your music on the radio than it used to be. So it's a bigger accomplishment now. And fortunately for us, we reached out to the X and talked to the right people, and they just liked the darn song.
Yeah.
They liked it. And they were like, you know what? We like this. We're supporting this. And I guess I'll let this cat out of the bag. I had WZQQ in Hazard reached out to me about an hour ago, and they want me to send the track to them. So they want to start playing it. So it's starting to get more momentum.
In one day.
In one day. that they're reaching out to us, and that's exciting, man, especially for hard rock in the mountains, because typically it doesn't lend itself to us as much as it does some of the other artists. But
Josh, I'm a guy a lot like we laugh and go on because we're a lot alike, but I do what I want in life. Like, I'm 38 years old and I'll still go after. I'm a little bit too old to fight now. I still wrestle, but I always wanted to be a lead singer to a rock band. That's one thing the good Lord, he just didn't bless me with a Whitney Houston or just a beautiful voice. But the lead singer to Downtrend, dude, he's got some growl to him, man. He makes me think of Taskmaster, Kevin Sullivan, as a singer.
Mike is something else, dude. He's been in the band for about a decade now. We've been together. April will be 19 years of Downtrend, which is crazy. We got to try to do something big for the 20th anniversary.
Absolutely.
That too. That's huge. But Hillbilly Days 2014 was their first gig in downtown Pikeville. And Mike's been in the band now 10 or 12 years, quite a while. And he came from a cover band called Explicit. And he still does these bands. He does karaoke all the time, just to keep his chops up. But Mike can sing anything. He can mimic or sing whatever you want. And, a lot of times when we take in the music, we're like, Mike, I'll say, this has got a Motley Crue vibe. And
Vince
Neil. There it is. I mean, it's just, and anything he's trying to emulate, it's just that spirit.
That feel.
That spirit.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
And I said, I kind of hear old Motorhead with this. And he's like, I hear Priest. I hear old Priest. And I was like, okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
He does this thing. But yeah, he's an excellent singer, man, a good dude. And Jeremy Chaney, he and I started Downtrend in 2004. Jeremy's our bass player. And Jeremy departed for a while and had other bands with J.D. Hall, actually, oddly enough. And then, JD came to Downtrend before Jeremy came back. But then at some point, Jeremy came back. And, it's been fun, man. We've had this lineup together for, I guess, 9 years.
That is awesome. So. And, it's weird because things blow up at certain times. Like you said, you guys have been around a while. You played shows with big audiences, dude. I mean, you played alongside big artists.
Yeah. We've been built with some of the biggest names in hard rock. We've played shows with the Avenged Sevenfold, Seven Dust, Alter Bridge. I mean, it's I don't want to say bragging, but yeah, we've had a great resume.
You've worked your butt off for it too, though.
We've played with, and there's nothing like seeing your name on those bills. And we do shows. Another thing it's funny. I work in oncology in a cancer center for a living, and one of my providers at the clinic, he never took me seriously as a musician until I showed him a payday when we had a check stub from Live Nation. And all of a sudden, it's like, oh, he does shows for Live Nation. He's credentialed now.
Yeah.
We're not joking.
No.
This is a serious thing. So, we enjoy it. I always tell people, we write our own music, and the life of an original musician is tough because it's probably like an independent wrestler. The paydays are not much. You do it for the love of it.
That's exactly right.
Love, right? But we love it, man. And we could go play in bar bands all night and get paid a couple $100. We have a desire to write our own music, but it's tough. And we love it, that we wouldn't change anything. And
like you said, it's a whole lot more difficult nowadays to get your music out to an audience. Absolutely. I mean, the way you talk about having a buddy at the radio station, they're paying them off or something. That was really how it used to go down back in the day.
Absolutely. And, it's just unfortunate. I was telling some people yesterday when I got the official word that we were going to be premiered on WXLR 104.9 last night. And not only premiered, but they did us an early preview. They played at 6. Mm-hmm. The premiere was at 10. So they actually snuck it in one earlier. And now it's in rotation for a while. Yeah. So it's going to be playing for, I don't know how long, but for a while until it goes back out of the system. And I was so excited. People were like, oh, you've never been on the radio? And I said, no, we've been on the radio. Mm-hmm. It's just so much tougher now. Yeah. It's been a while, and totally excited about it, man. And hopefully some more stations start picking it up also. Yeah, we love it.
It's not like you guys are up and coming. You all been doing this a long time. And like you said, it's a huge difference in being a band that's not covering, just covering. I mean, coming up with your own stuff, that's time consuming. Mm-hmm. That's being in a brotherhood with guys that share that same love. It's a saddest, like you said, I could imagine myself it being a very satisfying feeling once you get those accolades. Even the smallest things would feel good.
It does, man. I made the comment yesterday. I guess this is what I was getting at a minute ago. I tend to ramble and get sidetracked.
I'm the same way, man.
But there's no greater feeling as an original artist. There's two major feelings that you just One is hearing your song on the radio, man. There's nothing like I ain't gonna lie, I teared up.
I don't blame you.
Because it's just the coolest thing in the world to be sitting in your vehicle and your song is on the radio and you're like, man, I had a part of writing that. And you know, and it's just the greatest feeling. And there was there's times, look, I'm not above telling you any of the secrets. We'll call and request it ourselves or whatever. Heck yeah.
Who didn't do that
question.
though?
Any band that ever had worth a salt has done this.
Right.
But there's been other times, like I remember one day I was at the movie theater years back, and I was in the lobby, and Liar Come On was one of our older songs come on the radio. They had the radio on, and this song gets so cool, man.
Oh, I would have bawled.
It's so cool.
That had been me.
But the other moment is when you're doing your songs live and you see people singing along. That's the coolest thing. I'd imagine for wrestling, it's like a giant pop.
Oh yeah.
I mean, just
it's funny because I can't remember Stone Cold. I was listening to his podcast, and I can't remember. He had a musician on there, and he kind of, me and him share the same thing. We always, if we wouldn't had been professional wrestlers, we wish we could have been rock and roll frontmen, but we don't have that vocal talent. Ate up with charisma, just not the vocal talent. But he had always talked about the life on the road. There's so many similarities between pro wrestlers and musicians, man, on them nights on the tour bus, and it's just I admire, like I love music, man. Like we can talk all day long.
Me and him, so like we already have everything in the world in common anyway. And one day, like I don't know what brought up Scott Weiland, and then Adam's going on and on to me, and I'm shooting it right back. It's like, oh, so you love him? Okay, well, me too. Like he's one of my top 3 or 4 singers of all time, also.
Oh
like,
man,
who knew? Like, of course, we both love him.
I was actually, was that when I was sharing those rare songs?
It might have been, and I might have.
That was Gas and a Dollar Laugh, and a couple other ones I think from Velvet Revolver.
And we both were at the Velvet Revolver show.
Yes,
when we came to Cincinnati that time.
Man, I went. Me, Stash, CJ, and Jeremy. We all went. The first time was to Nashville. Somebody said you like Seven Dust.
Oh, massive. I
got to see. It was Buzzfest was the name of this. Yeah. It was Seven Dust, Saliva, Lit. There was a young band called The Music, and they were young guys, and they had a real Zeppelin-like vibe to them. Check them out. They had some, but I think they dissolved. I think they were really young at the time. They were probably in their late teens. But they had some break-in, freedom fighters. They had some real killer stuff. But that was the first time that we got on the road as friends and made a trip together. And we went and watched Velvet Revolver. And even though Weiland was sick at the time, they only did like 9 songs. But just Seven Dust really good, man.
Seven Dust is one of the best live bands.
They were. That guy had just a tough. I mean, I don't know how you would describe it.
We were fortunate enough. For me, I'm not speaking for band, but for Josh Crum, opening for Seven Dust for me might be the pinnacle of what we've done from a standpoint. It's so it was a huge show. It's Seven Dust in Columbus, Ohio, but it's just gratifying to be on the bill with people who you truly, truly idolize. Like, really look up to, who inspired, especially when the lineup at Downtrend at the time had Jay Justice and Jeremy Justice in the man, and they were also massive Seven Dust fans. So we all were just kind of fanboying that day a little bit. You know what I mean? Like trying to stay professional, but. Yeah, I read a Revolver magazine several years back talking about all the bands that got their big break toward the Seven Dust. But how Seven Dust is so good live, these bands don't want to take them back out because they don't want to compete with them. So like, they go on tour with Seven Dust, get their break. I'm talking like Godsmack, Nickelback, Disturbed, Kid Rock, huge artists who get bigger than Seven Dust, but don't return the favor because they're afraid to. And Chad Kroger of Nickelback admitted it. It's nobody wants to tour with Seven Dust.
Their live performance was, it stuck out. I wasn't a massive fan of them. They earned my respect, man, because they went. Their drummer was bad to the bone too, man. I had such a good time at that concert. I may have been the only one that was sober in the crowd that night because the jokers I was carrying, they sure wasn't. But no, we had a great time. Listen, Josh, when did you start? When did you start taking to playing guitar? I mean.
My brother had this guitar that, looking back, was the coolest thing in the world. I'd like to have it, together, but it was a Sears Sensonic. I don't know if you remember this. We talking about the Sears Wish Book.
Yes.
We loved growing up. We all loved. Anybody in our era knows the Wish Book. But it was a guitar, and on it just had a little on-off switch. And it had a little speaker on the top where you just jam it anywhere. Like, how cool is that, actually?
Like a built-in amp or something.
Like a built-in amp on the guitar. And he couldn't do shit with it. Is that okay?
Yeah, we're live, pal. Remember it. No, you're good, dude. You're good.
Ask for forgiveness, not permission. And he couldn't do anything with it. And my dad's family, they're all ridiculously musically inclined.
Yeah.
And my brother and I are half brothers, actually. So he didn't have that gene. And for whatever reason, I picked it up, and it seemed to come quick. And I had a friend that had a Harmony for sale, which you may remember. Those were always around.
Yeah.
They were kind of cheap, but they were good for the money guitars.
Yeah.
And I got this Harmony, and I just kept on, man. And my parents saw there was some stuff there, and they kept, every year for Christmas it was a new guitar, a new guitar, a new guitar. And I just fell in love with it, man. And I've played since I was about 13.
That's what I was going to say. How old was 13?
I've played seriously since I was 13. So like I enjoyed playing guitar. I dabbled with it. I definitely knew there was a thing there, but when I heard Randy Rhoads, when I heard Crazy Train,
I'd say a lot of guys were inspired by that riff, man.
And I'm still inspired by Randy Rhoads.
Is Randy Rhoads your favorite guitarist of all time?
Not even close.
Wow. And he done Quiet Riot. He was a Quiet Riot also.
And honestly, I was always a big Quiet Riot.
I mean, I love Quiet Riot, dude.
Yeah. So it was weird. And love Randy Rhoads. And it's so weird. I do this, one thing if I can mention real quick too, I do this Ozzy Osbourne podcast.
Yes, we were going to talk about that because I think it's so cool,
and,
dude.
It's the weirdest thing. I'm gonna name drop a little bit. Like through the podcast, like I text with like Randy Rhoads' sister Kathy. We chat back. She's telling me about her grandkids' health issues, and I'm at work texting, and then it just hit me. I'm like,
dude,
I'm texting Randy Rhoads.
I hate to interrupt, but this is just too. This is crazy. So you know what Ravishing Rick Rude means to me?
Absolutely.
So his sister Kathy and I have developed.
Kathy also.
And she was texting me talking about her daughter's health issues yesterday.
I told you we have everything.
I'm telling you, Kathy Carter, she's Ravishing Rick Rude's sister. Sweetest woman. She dedicated her life to taking care of like injured vets and stuff, man. But like, she's the sweetest lady, and that's just crazy.
It is.
I mean, that's crazy. So Randy Rhoads' sister,
like she's buddies. I'm like buddies with like Zach Wilde's wife through this stuff. Like they just message me, and I'm like, is this real life now? Like, like it's weird. The Seven Dust guys, I'm totally name dropping. I got their phone numbers. It's weird, like how when you do this stuff and you get to know these people, at some point you realize they're just human beings,
right?
Like you are, but you still idolize them.
But they also see in you that this dude's cool. He appreciates it, and he's not a psychopath.
There has to be a respect,
right? Yes,
yeah, for sure. But but Randy Rhoads for me was and still is the pinnacle of guitar playing. He's amazing.
I know Ozzy's a big part of your makeup of who you are, and I always, he was like Ozzy was probably one of the first guys I gravitated towards, like when I got into rock music. Like my brother Jason was big into Black Sabbath as a teenager, but he got older and he became a Parrot Head. But I had those cassette tapes of War Pigs and Iron Man, and I'd rewind them. But think about the guitarists. I mean, obviously, but Ozzy Osbourne has surrounded himself with some of the greatest guitarists of all. I mean, J.K. Lee, a lot of people don't even think of him, and he's like probably my favorite guitarist.
Downtrend. We played a show with J.K. Lee. I think I was out back having at myself this thought of playing a show with J.K. Lee, and then he walked in. He heard us we do a cover maybe at the end of the set, and he's like, "You guys are doing another brick in the wall," and I was like, "Yeah," he goes, "Oh, that sounded awesome," and I was like, "Oh, that's so cool, man!" Like J.K. Lee, 13-year-old Josh would never believe that,
right?
And thanks to Greg Napier for hooking us up with that show. Greg done a ton of shows here in the Eastern Kentucky area over about a decade, bringing rock and roll to the mountains. I love people that bring rock and roll to the mountains. And at the time, I didn't know Greg.
Mm-hmm.
And I called him and I said, "Greg Napier?" He's like, "Yeah." I said, "This is Josh. I'm with a band called Downtrend. You don't know me, but you're going to get to know me."
Yeah.
Because we're opening up for J.K. Lee when he comes to your show. and Greg said, "I've heard of you and I'd love to have you." God. So it worked out great,
Sometimes you gotta put the you gotta go for broke.
Exactly.
You gotta go for broke.
We did shows for Greg for years after that.
Did you do LA? Did y'all do a show with LA Guns?
We did LA Guns.
I love LA Guns, man.
Yeah, and I'll tell you another man that's very under the radar, but Richie Kotzen, the Winery Dogs.
Yeah,
and his claim to fame was he's in Poison for a moment there, but he's so talented, man. And we played with him a few times. Great too. Lynch Mob.
Love Lynch Mob.
Great guy. He's awesome. Cool
man, Lynch Mob's got one of their ballads is one of my favorite songs. Dream Until Tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
Man, that's one of my favorite songs ever. Yeah. But I was going to ask you, when you all got going, who was doing the promoting? Because what'd you say, 19 years Downtrend's been going?
Years.
So social media in between that, it's kind of came along, what would you say, past, let's see, man, about 12 to 15 years, I guess. So, before that, was you just put flyers up everywhere?
We would do the flyers. We'd flyer cars, we'd flyer local youth stores, whatever. But, right when we were getting going, MySpace fired up.
Yeah.
And MySpace for bands. It's funny, JD Hall, who you had on the show, our drummer, we were discussing this earlier today. MySpace was so good for musicians and artists because it truly helped you promote. They had the little bulletin board on the side.
Yeah, I remember.
All that stuff. And Facebook, on the other hand, actually does it. It wants you, it suppresses your post because it wants you to pay for ads, just to be honest with you. And MySpace didn't do that. It was excellent. And we had a great following on MySpace. When it finally started, when the world started shifting to Facebook, we were like, no.
Yeah.
But, you know, yeah, but it was always, I don't want to sound self-certain, but it was always kind of, I was always at the management group.
Yeah.
So it was always me that would kind of try to get these things together or book the show.
Reach out to people.
Or drive the shows, whatever. But, you know, the band, we've always had a good core group that cared. So therefore, everyone pulled their weight.
You had recently lost a man that was on the crew, like he was.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. Thomas Price. He was a roadie.
Had a tattoo on his forearm.
He had a Downtrend tattoo.
I knew Thomas. He married a lady that I was really good friends with, Patricia, and I got to know him a little bit through her there, and talked to him several times. Had the tattoo on his. I mean, it looked pretty bad, dude. I mean,
it was awesome. It was an ambiogram, so you could turn it either way, and it would read the same thing. And he went through fire for us. I mean, he was excellent. Worked with us for about 10 years. Once he had a first wife named Denise. She passed away. And she was great with us also. She taught me how to wear a gown liner, how to put it on and stuff. But once she passed and he moved on to Patricia, he kind of started a new life a little. So he kind of walked away from us a little bit as far as this piece of music, but the love was always there. He was always checking in, and like Thomas would love this new track. He would be so excited about this no question.
And then, you know, I was sitting there thinking, we had your drummer, JD Holland. I've known JD for years. It's funny. JD, when I was probably 17, he would always come in. We always hung out at Movie Gallery. And JD, he was always down there. And the JD now we see, he don't look like the JD. JD back in the day had long black. He looked like Glenn Danzig. Yeah. I mean, he looked like, and I always walk in, and you just got to know how, it's well, rock star, and I'd grab him, and he just got the biggest kick. And I called him that for years, and I didn't know that he was even in a band. He just had, you can tell when a person's got it about him. And I just did it as this dude likes rock music. Little did I know he's one of the baddest drummers in this area, period.
Anywhere, he's won national competitions. I'll brag on him. He's excellent. You know, it's funny you say that. Like I used to be the opposite of that. Like Downtrend was the band before that. They looked like a bunch of nerds. Yeah. They would get on stage and melt faces. Yeah. You know, and
looks can be deceiving.
It was always we don't have to do that. It's not knock on JD for doing it. It was our thing. Like you don't have to do that. And it worked for a moment. And we were playing a show in London, Kentucky with some national bands, and I was out back playing cornhole with this dude that was in one of the bigger bands, and he was just kind of talking, and it was Pop Eagle, the band Pop Eagle was one of the guys from Pop Eagle. And he said, if you're going to be a rock star, you got to look like a rock star all the time. He said, when you walk into a club, they got to know there's the band. Yeah. And I thought, that kind of stuck with me, actually. And ever since then, I'm like, you know what? JD was right the whole time. Look like a rock star all the time, and you'll get that attention all the time. You know, let them know when you walk in, there's the band. Without even knowing there's the band. You know?
Well, I mean, that's I would, if I was in your shoes, to me that would be cool. You know, which I mean, I wrestle in undershorts basically and paint my face.
Underwear.
Yeah. So I mean, me looking wild is just an everyday occurrence.
Our bass player, Jeremy Chaney, who me and Jeremy's been friends since like 5th grade. It's kind of like you and JD knew each other. That's how me and Jeremy were. He's always coming to the metalhead in the sky because I like work these like 9-to-5 jobs, and I don't have long hair.
Yeah.
I never, but I've never hit that I'm a metalhead.
Right.
I just never had long hair.
Yeah, I
wouldn't look right.
No, you got a good look, dude. And I'm gonna say it because people say we favor anyway. So I gotta put him over. Most handsome rocks.
We both look like Kevin Owens.
Yeah. But no, we have man, like I said, we were sitting here before we started filming and sharing stories, and I was telling him, one of my friends, this is before I knew Josh, but one of my friends was telling me, I ran into at Happy Mart. He was like, man, he said, I didn't know you was in a band. And I said, what do you mean? I thought, back in my day, I might have claimed to be in one or something. And he heard about it. And he said, no, he said, my daughter's seen your picture on these flyers at Pikeville. And he said, it's you singing in a band. And I was like, what was it? are you pulling my leg? I mean, I didn't know what to think at this point. So I started looking, you know, just creeping one night, and I found Downtrend, and it was just by accident. And I think I told Linus, right there is who Bradley thought I was, man, that boy right there. And I cracked up. Little did I know it was Josh, who they said that I claimed I was singing in a band.
That's awesome. My first memory of Adam Newsom is drastically different. We were at a Little League baseball game for kids that at the time looking back were probably 7 years old. And what happens at Little League games? Parents get pissed off, right? And I remember some parent yelled at a coach. It was a buddy of mine. And the coach yelled back. And they started getting heated. And I said, hey, there's just a bunch of kids playing ball. And this dude was me goes, what do you have to say about it? Or something to that effect. And I'm like, I don't know what he got to say. It was Adam Newsom over here. So my first memory was he's giving me some grief for telling a bunch of people to shut up about complaining about kids.
Listen, he's telling a false story. I've never been out of control of the ball.
He got mad and went over and started walking around the tree and they was kind of cooling off. He's ready to crush me.
No.
Look at this. He would have killed me.
He's telling a bold face lie. No, listen, that was.
I don't even know that story. I literally never told him.
That's the Braves and Cubs debacle. Oh shoot! I'm telling you what. Listen, Little League baseball games can bring out the worst in people.
They can. They go to jail. We had one in Pine go to jail. I mean, it happens.
Little League baseball games. But no,
I think what it was is, to be fair, we both were wanting to keep a peace because I yelled, "Stop! What are you doing? Stop this!" Because I was like, "There are kids out here."
Yeah.
But I think I said to somebody who you're probably close. I don't know who it was.
I think it was Brent.
But all he remembers now. Oh, it's coming back. But and then you're like, well, what are you going to say about it? So I was like, oh man, hell, this is crazy. We're not going to get in a fight and go to jail.
We would have listened. It'd been good for this podcast. Well, that was good enough for this podcast. We didn't need to go hitting on one another. Yeah. Hey, listen, I was going to ask you another question that came to my mind. Your Mount Rushmore of guitarists.
Ooh.
Yours.
I got to say, man, this is going to be a little bit lame.
No,
I'm just such an Ozzy Osbourne fan, and his music is probably it's the Ozzy guys, man. It just is. It's Randy Rhoads, Tony Iommi, Zakk Wilde, J.Q. Lee. That's my four. If I go right outside there, it'd be more fun because that's a little easier. Yeah. So I'll go local. It's Ace Frehley, and after Ace
was always on point.
I mean, that's my five.
Yeah,
and I know that's a little lame.
No, it ain't.
But those are the guys. Those are just the ones, man, that I sat down. I loved Ozzy Osbourne, and once I started learning all these Randy Rhoads licks, then I moved on to Sabbath licks. Then I moved on to Zakk Wilde licks and Bark at the Moon.
God, I love that solo.
And it's just, and that's it, man. And of course, everyone. Our Ace Frehley and Kiss was just, and we played with Ace Frehley. It's no.
I remember that. Was that over at Apple Shop?
That was in Whitesburg, but at an Apple.
Oh, okay. Park. Did y'all play at Apple Shop with somebody?
We played at Apple Shop. That's where we were at.
That's always been a good place, man, for bands.
Bullet Boys, a lot of '80s bands.
Smooth opinion.
Yeah.
I didn't know I hit that.
So yeah, but see, you can sing after all. But
top four frontmen.
Of course, Ozzy Osbourne was number one for me.
Yep.
Paul Stanley's probably
love Paul.
I think Paul. It's so funny. I've always said this, like, when you don't know Kiss, Gene Simmons is the face of Kiss.
Yeah.
When you know Kiss, Paul Stanley is the face of Kiss. It's funny how it changes.
Mm-hmm.
He's so the driving force in the band. Scott Weiland's right there. He is the Mick Jagger of our generation.
Yeah.
No question.
He was a chameleon, man. The thing I love about Weiland. And today I was actually watching YouTube about, I think the video was like top artist who had problems with Stone Temple Pilots. And it was like, people were like ragging on those dudes for sounding like they Pearl Jam back in the day. Yeah. But as soon as Core was over with, Purple was the most eclectic. I mean, it was different, dude. And that's my favorite album ever is Purple, because you got it's kind of like, I don't want to say Use Your Illusions, but there's a lot of different content in that album. Yes. I mean, you got Still Remains, which is one of the most beautiful songs ever. Meat Plow Will Rock You Down. I mean, Loungefly's tough. And then you got Pretty Penny, that acoustic gig. I mean, that whole album, to me, if I had to be stranded on an island, they said, you got one album you can take. It would throw me Purple, man.
Mine is, it's kind of cheats to sell a lot of mine's Randy Rhoads tribute.
Yeah. My brother had that when I was a kid, and he's holding him. It's iconic.
Yeah. And that was the one that really got me going. I bought it thinking it was the greatest hits. As I saw Crazy Train on there, I knew Crazy Train.
Iron Man was on that.
Iron Man on it. That was it. And I was like, oh, this has got, okay. And I went home and turned it on and the crowd. And I was like, oh, man.
Was I Don't Know? Did that lead that?
Open Up With I Don't Know.
Oh, God. It's one of the best.
Next thing I know, I'm just jamming that over and over and over. And
so
over.
many people will tell you, too, that like that tribute album was a big part of their teenage years because a lot of people, I mean, cousins, brothers, they all had that cassette tape and it unfolded out some cool pictures in
Randy
that.
And his mother. And, and I think, you know, Randy Rhoads was so good. And I think people heard it with Blizzard of Oz and Diary of a Madman, the two greatest rock albums of all time, in my opinion. But I think when Tribute came out, it like solidified. Like, darn, he was a smoker live too. Like, listen to this guy, you know. And at that point, it just went over the top. I think with how his you know, mystique went over the top at that point. Blizzard of Oz
was my best friend bought that CD for me in grade school when I was in 7th grade. He bought that one. He said that he is, he's at Stash. He plays guitar too, and but he had bought. Actually, he says, I don't know this to be true because I've caught him in several lives. He said he bought Speak for the Devil for me. Speak of the. He said he bought that for me, and it got broke and under the Christmas tree. And then he brought me Blizzard of Oz. And Speak of the Devil, was it like a demo?
It was all Black Sabbath.
Oh, it was.
But it was Ozzy solo doing all Black Sabbath songs.
I did not know that, man. Still to this day, did not know that.
So many people know these Black Sabbath songs through that album because Ozzy was hitting huge stride. He went from playing clubs to playing massive arenas. I'm talking 20,000 seat arenas within a span of 2 years. It blew up. And then he released the Speak of the Devil live album, which was them doing Sabbath. And it was all because Black Sabbath's management had released a live at last.
Yeah.
And both Black Sabbath camp and Ozzy camp was pissed over that because neither one of them was authorized that release. So Black Sabbath released the live album with Ronnie Dio. And Ozzy released Speak of the Devil with him doing with Brad Gillis of Night Ranger playing guitar, and he's slow.
I like Night Ranger. A lot of people give me listen. I take a lot of heat, but I like Night Ranger.
Go listen to Brad on that record. Goodness gracious, and they did Speak of the Devil, and it's amazing.
I take a lot of heat. My 4 lead singers that would go Mount Rushmore would be Axl Rose, Scott Weiland, Billy Squire, and David Lee Roth. That's my 4.
It's hard to argue David Lee Roth is such a good front man.
Yeah, I mean, he's not going to be the greatest singer.
No.
But the dude had charisma. He was fun songs. That goes a long way with me. People say, oh, they can't write songs. If it's fun and it sounds good to me.
I got to admit it. Every photo Downtrend's ever taken, I'm like this. Or this, or something.
Imposing.
But, you know, Van Halen is the one band that didn't care to smile.
Yeah.
They always were smiling, trying to have fun. The whole group, man. And my first rock and roll concert ever went to was Van Halen.
Which
Van Hagar. Balance Tour, 1995. With Sammy.
God, but that was
Collective
good
Soul opened that.
I like Collective Soul.
Yeah, it was a good show.
We got to see them. Me and Jerry Scott went down to the Center and checked them out. When they did, yep, different.
I was there.
Was you?
Yeah.
Different kind of truth.
Yeah.
Cool in the Gang opening for them.
The Gang, and they were awesome.
Yes, yeah. It's ladies.
At first, I was kind of like, "This is so strange."
Yeah,
I'm like, "Hell, they're killing it."
I've heard every one of these songs. I said.
So I thought "Celebrate Good Times" would be the only song I knew until I got there.
John Goldberg. I told Stash, I said, you know what, man, if we went on tour, we wouldn't take Cool in the Gang, we'd take the Gap Band so that it would be like Cool in the Gang, be just like a big curveball to everybody.
It was amazing.
But I can see where David Lee Roth was coming from because I'm sure Eddie Van Halen said, let's take Cool in the Gang. Yeah. That had to set the tone for the rest of the night.
I said 3. My 4th was probably David Lee Roth also. I'm a big fan of his solo stuff. I was on the fence about going and watching Kiss on the farewell, and then when they announced David Lee Roth was open.
Did you go?
Yeah, I went.
Man, I'd gave anything.
They was on stage for $50. It's a pretty good deal. And Roth was amazing. I'd never seen him solo. I'd seen him with Van Halen that show.
So he did all right because I heard that he was.
Good. He actually did better than he had been because he'd been getting some grief.
Yeah,
a lot of the grief was kind of coming out.
Just Like Paradise is one of my themes. I've got themes in my life. Just Like Paradise is one of the biggest.
That was my only complaint. He didn't do a ton of the solo stuff. That's kind of what I wanted to do.
He done a lot of Van Halen.
He did a lot of Van Halen. But
people
complain about David Lee Roth's live vocal or Vince Neil's live vocal. It was never that great.
No. I mean, these guys are in their 60s now. I mean, even at that point.
It was never that great. Vince Neil was never spectacular live.
No, and Roth, when he give you a show, what he made, what he lacked in vocals, he made up for in performance.
Hey, you'll appreciate this. Now, we opened up one time for Duff McKagan. His band Loaded.
Yeah, they got big.
We played with Loaded, and I'm a pit thief. I can't help it. So if I'm on stage and dust shit is up there, I'm gonna steal a pick. It's just I can't help it. I'm sorry. And I stole a pick off Duff's bass rig. And once I looked at it, it said it was Velvet Revolver. It wasn't Velvet Revolver on it.
Dude, that's even better.
Yeah, hopefully. I was like, all right, cool.
All right, so what do you think about Eric Clapton, just right off the head?
I always grew up liking Clapton a lot, man. I love him on the new Aussie track.
Because me and you talked about that recently.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people tend to go, they like early. I'm a sucker for the 80s. I like 80s Kiss. I like 80s Clapton. Yeah, I guess I feel that way, man. You take Bad Love, that intro to that. That's, I mean, it's in the way that you use it. I don't know why I'm on Clapton right now, but
Forever Man.
Yes. I mean, just she's waiting.
But I think what you grow up with is what people gravitate towards. But that said, Layla, the outro of Layla, I can listen to it on repeat.
Did you ever see Duff, Slash, and Axl do that at the end, or right before November Rain? That will make a grown man cry.
Yes. So big fan of that. Yeah, I love. That's a random question. Yeah, I love. And Eric Clapton's on the new Aussie record. Something on one of those.
Jeff Beck also is.
Yeah. I love it though on the Aussie track. Eric's not on the video, but he's like doing this guitar solo, and the story was that Ozzy and the producer Andrew Watt kept aggravating Eric. We want you to use a wah-wah. We want a cream sound. Use a wah-wah, and that Eric never responded to it. So they're getting nervous, like he's not going to use the wah-wah. And they kept sending him the message. It was emails. They said he communicates via email. He's old. And finally, they just mailed him a wah-wah in the mail. So he was a wah-wah. But he sends them the track back and sure if he used the wah-wah. So it was what they wanted. But in the video, there's a moment where he's just kind of noodling. What noodling is on guitars is kind of just kind of goofing off. And then the song kicks again, it gets loud. And in the video, I love because Ozzy turns the volume off from 0 to 10. Then he goes on up to 12 right when it kicks in and he kind of does this. And it's such a cool moment, that video.
I'll tell you,
Eric Clapton's a guitar god.
The Aussie song with Elton John, I thought that was
Ordinary Man.
God, that was an emotional tune.
Absolutely.
The video would make you cry. I mean,
I cry. I'm a sad.
Don't even get me going, dude. Don't even get me going.
Listen, my kids give me crap all the time. They're like, "Don't cry." I'm like, "Hush." If you're already crying, I'm like, "Hush." No, I'm not. I cry.
There's a video.
Everything.
There's a video floating around of me at Max's kindergarten graduation, and I'm just sitting like, and there's people saying, "Is he crying? Is he?"
I'm the same way. What's wrong with us?
I don't know, buddy.
I cry at everything. So
I'm about to cry.
My little girl Callie, she's a model, and she's always like, I can't help it, man. I cry.
Just means you got a good heart. That's the way I look at it.
It means you carry it.
Yeah.
You're just talking about how wrestling and music kind of are similar.
Yeah.
I was going to tell you, I was saying that you'd be shocked how modeling in these. My little girl models, and she's like, again, I hate to come on this kind of stuff. You sound bragging. Like, I'm talking like New York City, Times Square, fashion runway models. She's 12. But you'd be shocked how similar that is to music also. Like, it's weird because when I said
you almost got your own crew, I would say.
The business side of it. And it's like you book these gigs and you try to, and it's so similar because like I went through it all with the music career. It's so similar in how that in the business side that pays off.
I'm sure you can help her out then, man. I mean, I'd say you've got a little bit of knowledge on how to handle situations.
It's interesting how similar they can be. So yeah, it all just kind of, I guess it's all entertainment, right?
Yeah, and with wrestling, I'm back in the ring in Corbin out of all places in February, and I'm really looking forward to that. Back in November, we were at McGoffin County, and it was the first time that I'd been in the ring in over 2 years, and I didn't know how I would react. I mean, maybe you know a little bit about this. Have you ever take a big break in between gigs or something?
Well, we're doing it right now. That's what we just went through with Downtrend. Our last gig was August of 2020. Then we played one back in December, and it had been 2 years. Well,
the promoter had put me with a guy, one of my best friends, and he's a really good worker. And I was really nervous before the show because I knew, I didn't know, I'm 2 years older. I'm not a spring chicken no more. So I'm
before Pappy over here. Pappy couldn't get it done. Yeah.
But no, I got it done. We go to the ring. And as soon as I come through them curtains, man, and you feel, how it is in front of a crowd. When you feel that you've got them, you just hold You hold it there. You don't rush. You just hold it, and you thank goodness that you've got that feeling again.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, you don't trade it, man. You don't take it for granted because it's special. That crowd reaction is special.
Absolutely.
And when we did that match and we got it over like we did for, I think we went 12, 13 minutes and never lost them. And by losing them, I mean, they're checking their phone or they were, and it was such a good feeling when we go through the back, open the curtains and people's hugging us saying, well, I don't want to hear that. You ain't got it. And I mean, the promoter gives us, says, we want you back forever. And I'm like, dude,
congratulations.
But you know what I'm saying.
I do know. And I try to. And the older you get, the
more you appreciate it.
You're 38 now. You do appreciate it. And there's times when we will have a hot crowd. Our best place, we're hot in Louisville.
Yeah.
Louisville, Kentucky's always been Downtrend's area. And we'll have some of those shows out there, and we'll have 800-900 people, 1,000 people. Now I soak it up, man. I was there on that stage and
cry.
I'll look out there and just soak it up for a moment. Like, this is crazy. Like, they, and for a moment, you are a rock star.
Yeah.
Now the next day you go back to work, you're not a rock star anymore.
You're a musician.
For that moment, you are a rock star.
You're a musician, though.
Like it, man.
And like you were talking about getting to play with these bands, I've got to in a similar fashion. I've tag teamed with Shane Douglas, wrestled the Sandman. I've wrestled Ricky Morton. Getting to sharing the backstage with these guys and picking their brains, asking them questions, man. It's something we're blessed to do. And like we're not old. I mean, we can still do what we do for a long time.
We still go.
Yeah.
I joke about being packies. We're not being packies.
No, but I'll tell you, we can really we know the audience thing, man. That really gets me. Like you said, you got to soak that in because you never know. You can't take it for granted, and it means the world to have them pay to what you put on a show. You feel obligated. I mean, if you care, you feel.
I'm sure you're the same way. Downtrend, we can play a gig in front of 10 people. It don't matter.
No, you give it 100%.
I love it just as much. I always say this is the God's honest truth, and I can guarantee you the same way with your matches. If you have one or two giving you their all out there, you can do it for them.
Yes.
And
I did it. I did it.
Absolutely.
And it's just the character. I mean, if you invest, if you put a character out there and you see that crowd invest in it and they buy your stuff, like buying your demos, your CDs and stuff, and they're coming to the merchandise table and they're buying pictures or to want to take a picture with you, man. I mean, it blows you away.
We played a show last month, a little return show. It was nothing major. It was about 40 people
there. Yeah.
We didn't expect anything more than that, to be honest with you. It was a toy drive and played it for free. And after the show, sure enough, we started selling some merch a little bit here, man. Maybe $100 or so on merch. Nothing major, but a little bit. And there was a girl, and I heard somebody say, well, I'll introduce you to him.
Yeah.
They think nothing about it. They finally bring her over, and they buy a shirt. But then I realized she was autistic.
Yeah.
She was probably about 19, 20 years old, and she wouldn't speak. But she reaches me this thing to sign. I signed it for her, whatever. And I gave her a hug, and her mom's like, can I get a photo? And sure. Well, the rest of the night, when I walked past her, she grabbed me, and I took like 5 photos with her. I don't know how many. I signed everything. I signed some of the weirdest stuff I've ever signed in my life that night. But the way I managed to touch that one girl,
I know exactly how that feels.
She a crush.
Yeah.
She's like the guitar player that night, But it has nothing to do with that. It's just what you can make someone's life is complicated for that moment a little bit better.
And people don't realize that on that level because, like,
and for the record, I have a crush on this one too. So
don't blame me.
Revolutionary
But there was a Terry Johnson, a big supporter of the Bears Den. His son had cancer, and Terry's boy was Michael. He was a little bit older, but he'd come to all the shows, and you could tell his health was going downhill. But I always made sure to go by and talk to him, hug him, and everything. And I never dreamed that he even remembered me or cared about. But apparently, Terry reached out to me and told me how much that it meant to him. And Terry donated like a lot of this equipment. There's kind of a gym in here. There's a lot of the equipment, as you can see right there, in memory of Michael Johnson on that Bears Den.
Yeah.
Terry helped get the Bears Den going here where I work kids out and stuff. And just, it blows me away
cool,
sometimes,
yeah,
man. I mean,
if you can touch one person that night, I mean, it sounds so hopeful.
I know.
And corny, but it's the truth. If you can just reach out to one or two, it's all
And make their life a little better
But
that
at the
night.
same time, enjoy it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I love playing music. I love playing music at the house. It don't matter. You know, you love to wrestle.
Yeah.
If you didn't love it, you wouldn't do it. You know.
No, I've got dislocated fingers.
It's weird though. The one thing we don't have in common, the one thing, he loves Ravishing Rick Rude. Everyone knows it. My favorite wrestler, Sting, who ended Rick Rude's career.
Real thoughtless act. No, actually, they got along, man. I read.
They definitely very bad.
Yeah, because I listened to a podcast with Rude's boy, and they asked me, he's like, "No," he said that wasn't. He said that was an accident. He said there's no heat. There was no heat between them.
The way that went down, for those that don't know, real quick, there was this. The ring was elevated on a platform, and when Rick Rude's neck kind of went over the elevator,
it was a nasty bump.
It's like this, but it was enough to snap his neck.
He came over the top with a crossed body, and when they both went down, it was nasty. And
but, you know, there's nothing Sting did. It
was
the issue of the way the ring was set.
It was the Japanese ring, the way that they. And I don't know if you remember it or not. Back on the old WCW, I think it was Worldwide in Orlando, and they done the spinning ring. Yeah, it was kind of like that.
Yeah, it was.
And that's just one of the dangers, man. That you because you never know when you go inside that ring, things happen. Because I mean, like I said, I used to fight, box, do MMA and stuff, and people laugh when I tell them I've got hurt a whole lot worse in the professional wrestling world than I ever did in real combat. You know.
I believe that. So yeah, we got all this. And another thing that we have in common, I'm going to just host the show here.
Go right.
Is this guy right here, Leatherface. Me and Adam both love horror movies. So
tell them about Scarefest when we went there.
So I get to know Adam a little, and I'm Facebook friends, and I see all this Leatherface stuff, and I'm like, dude, just so you know, like I love Leatherface too. And we both have an affection for Part 3, Leatherface. And R.A. Mihailoff, who's like buddies with Adam at this point, he was in Lexington at Scarefest. And
look what I got today from Ralph King.
Nice.
That was the Fangoria magazine that just got released today, and my good friend Ralph sent.
Very cool. But he's like, man, I know, like I love Part 3 also. And me and my buddies, I'm Matt Ferguson, my brother Dave Ferguson, Thomas Huffman, we used to rent that movie from Family Video once a month, and we'd just watch it over and over. And we let the little Alfredo do.
Yes, Tom Everett.
Little Alfredo does this and does that. He cleans and he does housework. You just tell him what to do. He does.
So many one-liners, dude.
Yes. So, but we used to love that movie, and it added on to the rest of them. But then, of course, Adam loves that. So we have a big passion for horror movies that we discuss also.
Wild Time Podcast. I've been very blessed and fortunate to have had R.A. Mihailoff and Mick Strawn. Did you check it out? Mick Strawn, who was the set producer of that movie and Nightmare on Elm Street 4 and 5, he tells stories about the truck. I mean, how he envisioned the truck creating it, and the gas station, how he envisioned it. So if you get a chance, check Mick Strawn's out, because it's got a lot of Chainsaw 3 stuff in it. But we have had, I've had a blast. We need you on more.
Mike, we can talk about.
Yeah, I mean, we could sit here and we could break down horror, we could break down rock and roll, and that's what this Wild Time Podcast is. Everything that me and him enjoy is what I bring. So there is an audience. If it is Josh Crum, there is an audience for it. But Downtrend they never went away. I was going to say, they're the Eric C. Conn of rock and roll.
You never left wrestling.
Never. I'm back.
You were back.
But listen, the single is out. Give them the lowdown. Let's plug this. Let's plug it, and make sure that the people tuned into a Wild Time Podcast get their first. Well, not their first. They probably heard it a few times because it's been out today.
Let's hope. If not, so let's hope to go check it out. This is available on all social media platforms. It's available on Apple, Spotify, all that jazz. Google Music, Amazon, whatever. YouTube, of course, has the music video. You mentioned the music video.
Love the music. Check it out.
I put the music video together, actually. And the footage.
Jack of many trades.
I told the band, I was proud of the videos and the damn song. I was like, it was excellent. But it was actually just footage of that's Panther, West Virginia.
Really? Why Panther, West Virginia?
Because I stole it off the internet.
Oh.
I screenshot this footage from Panther, West Virginia. These people driving down the back roads, and I sped it up times 8.
Cool, dude. Listen, That's a piece of information about this video that not many people is going to know. You heard it here first.
Yeah, so hey, why not? Because the song's very up tempo.
Yes, it is fast. It is. I mean, got good groove to it, man. Like I said, I liked it a lot. It made me think of, and when he brought up Motorhead, man, that bass. I mean, I can see that too. But if you're a fan of rock music, you've got to appreciate Downtrend because they have been Eastern Kentucky's. They've been there from a lot, like almost 2 decades now. And
so forward. We've tried to keep it real around here and tried to keep, there was a time when for Hillbilly Days, which is a big festival local if you don't live local. And one year they had us booked and told us we couldn't play because they wanted only hillbilly music. And my response was, what's more hillbilly than hillbillies? We grew up here, And that became a massive ordeal where the city was just begging us to make it go away because we reached out to the fans and said, hey, it ain't about Downtrend, it's about rock and roll. We're under attack. They don't want rock and roll at Hillbilly Days. And metalheads don't like to hear that stuff. Rock and roll fans don't want to hear that stuff.
You had an army.
My argument was the next Rolling Stones could be right there on Peach Orchard. If you don't give them an outlet, you may never know.
Yeah, you've ruined it.
Why? Just if they're good to play, let them play. If you don't want us, that's fine. But don't say
give
this because you're rock and roll. It's crazy. But yeah, we love it, man, and we appreciate people like Adam. My guy John Marshall from Buzz Man,
love John,
and keeping it all real. We truly appreciate that stuff, man. And Downtrend, we just keep plugging along. We love it. We do it because we love it.
Well, you all are getting better too, man. More experience. I mean, JD Hall, the Cheney, and Jackson. You all have got a good nucleus, man. And it is. It don't take as Ed Newsom would say, it don't take a dummy to see it. So you can go check it out on Facebook, YouTube, the video. I highly suggest it. The radio stations are suggesting it because they're playing it around here right now. Hazard just reached out to him, what, an hour and a half, 2 hours ago?
2 hours ago. So can you sing us that track?
So he will go work at the hospital tomorrow, and by nighttime he'll be blasting your head off with the guitar.
That's for real.
Ladies and gentlemen, Josh Crum of Downtrend, my buddy. This ain't gonna be his last rodeo. He will be back.
Before I go, if you haven't watched the episode that Mr. Newsom did with JD Hall, the drummer of Downtrend, I want to say I appreciate the kind words from you and JD.
Think nothing of it.
I said earlier I cry a lot. I teared up. I watched it like 4 times, that section of you all talking about me when it wasn't about me. The conversation was not about me. But they both had a lot of really nice things to say about me, and I want you to know I appreciate that.
Dude, I'm a true believer in good things happen for good people, dude, and you're as good a human being as there is out there with a lot of cool hobbies, and will melt your face with a guitar. So think nothing of that.
I appreciate it.
Josh Crum, Downtrend, back in the saddle. No pun intended by Aerosmith. We'll see you on down the road.